My introduction to art was at school. I think I've always been able to draw. Because I used to do like photorealistic drawings even when I was, at school. But I think because of my father being in engineering, it was like, you've got to get a real job, son. Actually going down the art route in terms of an education as a sort of further education and taking that on as a career, it was never even a possibility. It never even entered my head that you could do that, because it was just denied me. And then we moved here. So I live in the middle of a nature reserve. It's 160 acres of ancient woodland. I was literally mending a fence and screwing some wire up to throw it away, and I thought, I bet you could sculpt with wire. And I made a fairy for the bottom of the garden because it complements where we live. And it worked. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to have another go.
During 2012, Dad created a fairy trail in the woods for our village festival, encouraging families to come and search for the fairies themselves. That day, the lady from Trenton Gardens spotted them herself and wanted them for around the lake. Within a few days, the team from Trenton came to the workshop and wanted them all and wanted them now. Images of these fairies on social media create huge demand for his work.
So some of the early ones, I really struggled because it's almost the skeleton, and then you start adding things, and then you think those legs look all right, but the head would be too small or the neck would be too long, and it's like I was getting frustrated with it. I can't just keep on making these things that are a bit odd shaped. So I literally found an image of what I thought was a very healthy female figure, and I literally measured it with a ruler and did a spreadsheet. And I had a spreadsheet of all of the bone lengths for every piece of the bone, and the arm diameters and the waist diameter, and that meant that I could scale it up to whatever size of sculpture that I needed to make, and I still use that same spreadsheet today. I've got a story in my head that I want to tell with this figure. It has to tell that story before I add any wire to it.
Dad has a different way of looking at things, allowing him to see them three-dimensionally before he actually creates them, whether this is down to his dyslexia or just his artistic flair.
The skeleton has to be exactly right, and I might spend a day or more not really doing anything other than confirming in my own head that I've got the skeleton right before I add any wire to it. And then I'll start to add the muscle groups. You've got to get all of the rib cage, the thighs, the head. You've got to get those things right, knowing that there's going to be another layer coming on. And that's got to be a thinner wire to have a smoother finish. And then I actually made a little dandelion, and almost instantly my wife said, "Oh, that's nice, I'll have that." So I made a dandelion for a fairy, and I made a fairy blowing a dandelion. So that's where it started. We ended up with one which is my signature piece called Dancing with Dandelions. Every fairy that I make, I do a drawing beforehand. But a lot of the early fairies are all nude, and yet when you're looking at the sculpture, nobody cares. Nobody actually even remarks on the fact that they are naked women. Once I started sharing stuff online, everybody started to criticise the drawings, so I started putting clothes on the drawings, mainly to make the drawings acceptable to the audience.
Dad sells the fairies as fast as he can make them, and they go all over the world to their new homes. As well as these individual sculptures, our family produces and makes fairy kits for people to make themselves at home, dandelions for in their gardens, and other items showcasing Dad's beautiful photography.
The art world itself is very snobbish, really. I do think that if I'd gone through a normal art route into the art world and the art industry and been introduced, you know what I mean, you gain the keys to use galleries, and then galleries are filled with sort of elitist type people drinking Prosecco and all talking sort of very nice. Possibly find that that's a bit of a prejudiced view because I am outside, because I would actually like to break into that world. In terms of where I want to go, I've got somewhat of a challenge. I started off on my own as a hobby, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I've no wish to give up. I just love making them. I'd like to get on Countryfile because I think that would open up some doors. I would love a gallery to say, do you want to put on an exhibition? But ultimately, what I want to do, it's called a big, hairy, audacious goal. So I would like to make my signature piece bigger than the Angel of the North. I'm talking sort of bridge scale of architecture, something monumental in terms of a whole town of people could stand on a platform while it turns round in the wind. I want to build a world tourist attraction, and I will leave the world happy if I can do that.